Back in the day when radio was still relevant and people actually tuned in to the FM, I'm talking way back, long before the suits bent the medium over lube free and just porked all the life out of it. Those are the days I'm talking about. In the US, the two biggest stations were Z100 in New York and KIIS FM in Los Angeles. I mean, this young punk, pimply-faced 15-year-old used to listen to KIIS FM every night and think, you know what, maybe one day I'll be a nighttime DJ on an LA station. Maybe we could chat about that another time, but come on, you didn't tune in for Story Hour. You tuned in for me to deliver on the title of this video. Hey there, I am Jeff, the radio DJ dude, and deliver I will. We're gonna take you right into the bowels of the AI beast. I'm gonna show you how to put together this really cool production element that basically has its roots back in the 90s. It was KIIS FM, late 90s maybe, and a brand new on-air production element hit the airwaves. And everyone's ears perked up because back in the day, it was kind of fresh. And the incredible thing, super simple. All it was a female voiceover whispering the station name. And they'd run this over song intros. And all she said was, KISS. KISS. You're in the right spot, right here, right now, front row seat. I'm going to show you how to build your own AI voiceover whisper sweeper for your station. Come on, let's go. We are on the air. For this project, we're going to be recruiting our robo AI voices from 11 labs. Oh, only if they sounded that good. I did opt for the creator plan just to put my ears on the professional voice cloning feature. But to create the content we need for this project, the free plan should definitely float your digital dinghy. So after you have an account, to get started, you click on speech synthesis, and then you're able to preview a bunch of cool voices.
Logic will get you from A to B.
Before you put on a frown, make
government of the people, by the people.
But for this project, I'm trying to create an iconic whisper voiceover. I noticed that was one of Nicole's keyword, whisper.
If one is lucky, a solitary fantasy can totally transform.
Nicole, you're hired. I'm going to give Nicole a couple pieces of copy. Let's see how she does. And the great thing about 11 Labs is this voice settings tab where you're able to control the sound of the AI voice. By sliding these sliders, you could add more variety, which sometimes means a more animated, energetic read, which sometimes could sound fake. And the other end of the spectrum is a more stable voice, which sometimes sounds too robotic. So you could play with these settings to find the one that's just right. And in addition to settings, they have a couple different model or AI engines that you're able to choose. And with them even comes more options. So this is our text. Let's see what Nicole sounds like.
Triple X 80s. Totally rad. Totally commercial free. 24/7.
Keep in mind, what you hear there isn't what you're going to hear later when we cut these liners together. So don't worry so much about the pauses. Be more concerned about the phrasing, pronunciation, and how real does the voice sound. So if we decrease the stability setting, let's hear the difference.
Triple X 80s. Totally rad. Totally commercial free. 24/7.
So there's definitely more vocal variety. How she goes up on her at totally rad, totally commercial. So more animated, kind of a more lively read, but still in a whispery tone, which is what we're looking for. So I think that sounds pretty good.
Triple X 80s. Totally rad. Totally commercial free. 24/7.
And what's interesting, even if you don't change the settings, sometimes you will get two different reads by pushing the generate button a number of times. So let's say we like that one. Well, we download it. Let's give this one a whirl.
Triple X 80s. Keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
To me, that seems a little rushed. Maybe too much vocal variety. Let's make that a little more stable, a little more clarity. You see what I did here? I added a couple L's because I wasn't really getting the sound I wanted with just two L's. Let's try it with two L's.
Triple X 80s. Keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
In my previous video on AI voices, whoa, look, up there to the right, it's there. I actually dived deep on what tips and tricks you could use to get the best sound out of those AI voices. So check that one out. If we jack up the variability even more, let's see what how.
Triple X 80s. Keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
What this also does when you decrease the stability, sometimes it increases the speed of the read, the pace of the read.
Triple X 80s. Keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
And so much of this is just trial and error, kind of a fishing expedition. There's no way to predict what these settings are to deliver. Make some coffee, pop some corn, and experiment until you find something that you like. So let's move on. Short and sweet.
Triple X 80s. Totally awesome radio.
A little too fast.
Triple X 80s. Totally awesome radio.
Now we're in the zone. I totally dig that. Just a slight adjustment.
Triple X 80s. Totally awesome radio. Triple X 80s. Totally awesome radio.
You hear what happened? We didn't touch the settings, but those reads were very different. So sometimes you just got to hit generate a couple times and let the bots keep trying it until they get it right. And being an 80s station, come on, I could not pass up the chance to give Natasha, resident Valley Girl, a spin. So let's put in our cue. We'll keep the settings the same.
Triple X 80s. Oh, gag me with more totally awesome 80s music.
Oh my God, like for sure. I totally love that. Okay, let's grab that one. I think when you're creating a whisper liner for your station, it's best to stick with one voice. Make that voice be your anchor voice for this production element. Instead of using 5 different voices to deliver the whisper liner, just choose one. Okay, let's hop over to Adobe Audition. Wait. Before we do, I know I baited the hook earlier. I said I used 11 Labs to sample my voice. So how does AI Jeff sound? Well, you tell me. Extreme 80s fun right here on Triple X 80s. I'm Jammin' Jeff Scott. Oh, that was a big fail. Extreme 80s fun right here on Triple X 80s. I'm Jammin' Jeff Scott. Extreme 80s fun right here on Triple X 80s. I'm Jammin' Jeff Scott. Just the inflection and the tonality is all over the place. Triple X 80s. The best 80s music plays here. What? You don't believe me? Well, turn this jam up. That was not bad. I'd give that maybe a 70%. I'd never use that on air. Maybe for a weather or even news report you can get away with something like that. But come on, the one thing we as internet broadcasters have to offer is connection, is a personal touch, humanity, something that's so hard to find on corporate radio. So while the fat suits are trying to cut costs and replace human DJs with AI DJs, that's the secret sauce we offer to listeners, the human touch. So I know it's tempting, fill your station with these AI voices. Use them in small doses for building some production elements. There's definitely a spot in your lineup for them. I just wouldn't go 100%, because at that point, you're no longer offering any value to the listener. And people are getting more savvy. Robo voice fatigue is starting to set in. Your voice is a secret weapon. Or if you don't believe me, take it from AI Jeff. Your voice is the secret weapon. Well, if AI Jeff says it, it's gotta be true. You damned right it is. Now that your drive runneth over with AI voices, we're in Adobe Audition. We have to start weeding through the clunkers and junkers. One trick to batch import a whole bunch of files, just select them all in the media browser window and drag them onto one track. And you see, that brings them in order on one track. And then as you're listening to them, something I like to do is for the good takes, I just pull them down.
TripleX80s.com.
I wouldn't call that a good take per se.
PullX80s.com.
Nope.
TripleX80s.com. TripleX80s.com.
That's not bad. You may think, that is potential, but what about that pause at the end? Well, don't worry about pauses. We'll fix that. I'm not going to bore you with the cherry picking process. Let's jump over to the post-picked voices. This is my Whisper Liner workspace. Let me show you how I set the tracks up. Track organization goes a long way, so do yourself a favor and name your tracks. Like these first two are voiceover. Comp verb means in the effects rack, I already have some compression and reverb baked in to the track. VO chorus means I have a chorus effect along with reverb and EQ, and of course compression. So after you've named all your tracks, let's get them souped up with some cool effects. For AI voiceovers, I have a specific palette of effects I use to really make them pop. And the foundation consists of some compression and EQ. And I throw in a little reverb for presence. But if you want to copy my settings, well, take a screen grab. As for EQ, this really needs to be set to personal taste, but I'm rolling off a lot of the bottom and I'm punching up the highs so it really cuts and has a nice crisp edge to it. And reverb is always nice. And this is a studio reverb effect I'm using. Once again, you can check out my settings here. But that also is to taste. It has to sound good to your ears and fit your station's brand. But your ears on your radio production computer only take you so far. You have to keep in mind any compression or audio processing effects that are already in your on-air chain. That's going to affect everything. If you already run a lot of compression through your radio station, you don't need as much here in Adobe Audition. So back that off. Once you have a rack, a nice rack that you like, for ease, you could save this as a preset, which I have AI VO Comp Verb. So when you're building a second track, and I love to have duplicate tracks, as you'll see later. It makes ping-ponging your voice content so much easier. When we're ready to launch a duplicate track, you just find that preset, bada boom, bing, bang, you're in the money. That's usually my anchor track. It has compression, EQ, reverb, boom. For some, you could stop there. But to give it a little spice, I like to also add a chorus track, which has the same foundation of reverb, EQ, some reverb, but I add this chorus plugin. And once again, you got to adjust these settings based on what your ear holes are telling you. Then for the sound effects track, I have light compression. You want to be careful when you're adding compression to sound effects or music beds, anything that is going to be running under a voiceover cue, because it's tougher to tame the levels, because it's fighting to keep the levels at a certain spot. So I just put light compression. And what you'll hear, these effects don't really run under the audio. They're just stage effects. They precede the audio. So they'll never be in competition. And the last track is the mix track. This is the track all your other channels run through at the end. And my secret sauce here is a mastering effect. I start with a subtle clarity preset and then tweak from there. So this is one last blast of compression. You can add reverb, I don't. And this output gain slider, that's really a limiter. This says, whatever audio you're jamming through the system with all your wild compression, make sure it doesn't exceed negative 1.5 dB, so your audio won't be distorted. So let's take a listen to some of the selects without the sound effects.
XXX80s.com.
So this one's a winner.
XXX80s, where big hair and totally awesome 80s music live forever.
Way too many spaces. So you trim that down, and once again, that's the beauty of having two tracks.
XXX80s, where big hair and totally awesome 80s music live forever.
So that's totally usable. I dig that. I think we have another version of this, and you'll hear how we use the chorus track.
XXX80s, where big hair and totally awesome 80s music live forever. XXX80s, commercial-free, extreme 80s fun, 24/7.
So you hear what that chorus is doing? A lot of times with these liners, you'll have your station name and a slogan or positioning element. There's two components. To make each part pop, it's nice to give them their own unique sound. So if you give each part their own unique sound, they'll definitely stand out a little more. So as you hear with the station name,
Triple X 80s, commercial free, extreme 80s fun, 24/7.
so this first part establishes the station name and kind of the positioning statement. That's one theme. And this next part establishes, well, how often the first stuff happens. So it has a different sound than the first part. It helps differentiate the two thoughts.
Triple X 80s keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
So it's kind of like question answer. So how does the station keep your mullet rocking? Well, the answer with
totally awesome 80s music.
So that has a different sound than the first part. Okay, you got this.
Triple X 80s. Totally rad. Totally commercial free. 24/7.
See how we broke that up with a little chorus interspersed? That was nice. So if you look at this file name here, I used Triple X 80s from take 1 of this, but I used slogan from take 3. So you mix and match. Find what sounds best and slam them together. Now let's dig into a light sprinkling of sound effects. These aren't over the top, make your ear bleed sound effects either. They're just soft punctuators. They're pattern interrupts. So when these run, you hear a little subtle sound and people perk up. Wait, something's happening. It's not just music. So it's a stager to what's to come. And once again, with a whisper liner, I think subtlety's the key. Take a listen.
TripleX80s.com.
So I made the decision, the opening kind of stager effect will be the same for every whisper, just because it establishes a theme, kind of a brand for this production element. But it doesn't mean it has to be the only sound effect within a liner element. We don't need that one. Take a listen.
Triple X 80s, where big hair and totally awesome 80s music live forever.
So 3 unique sounds for each of these tracks.
Triple X 80s, commercial free, extreme 80s fun, 24/7.
I love the beep, beep, beep. Sounds like a watch, an alarm, and it definitely ties in to the time theme of how often does all this happen?
24/7.
So you remember the Valley Girl? Let's bring in a couple of her cues and see what we can do with them.
Triple X 80s, oh gag me, with more totally awesome 80s music.
I like some of that, but she's running everything together pretty quickly.
Triple X 80s, oh gag me, with more totally awesome 80s music, for sure.
Now, I don't like how she goes up on 80s music. It sounds like she's questioning if we're really going to gag her.
Totally awesome 80s music.
Music, or at least in this one, the inflection is right.
Me, with more totally awesome 80s music.
Once again, we like the first half of this cue, and we like the second half
With more
of this cue.
Triple X 80s, oh gag me, with more totally awesome 80s music, for sure.
So I think Gag Me should have its own effect, because that's kind of funny. Let's cut that, and we can move that down here, maybe to flange. Or...
Triple X 80s, oh gag me, with more totally awesome 80s music, for sure.
So you might be wondering, well, what does really compression do? Do you really need all that razzmatazz? Well, let's turn off all of our effects, okay? Let's listen to the dry voiceover. Pay attention to the fullness or lack thereof of the sound, the volume level, whether it really cuts. So here they are, dry, no audio Botox.
Triple X 80s keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
And now with a little supplementation.
Triple X 80s keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
And adding our reverb and chorus effects.
Triple X 80s keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
And the sound effects.
Triple X 80s keeps your mullet rocking with totally awesome 80s music.
So let's talk about the export. When you love how your production sounds, it's time to do 2 things. 1, set your metadata. So the next step becomes important once we import them into RadioDJ, and it will give us the flexibility to make these really sound sharp on air. So instead of setting your endpoint right at the tippy top of the liner, go back a second. So if this starts at 30.3, walk this back to 29, or roughly, it doesn't have to be totally exact. So you have a second pre-roll, And another tip.
Live forever.
Don't set your out point right there, live forever. Because remember, you have reverb on that track. You want to wait to the very end of that reverb to trail off. Because that sounds really nice if you're running that over music. So give yourself enough tails.
Live forever.
And let your levels be the guide as to when the reverb is actually done.
Live forever.
And boom, out right there. Set your out point. I for in, O for out. You've set up your metadata, and you want to export multi-track mixdown time selection. If you select entire session, it's going to do the entire 5-minute workspace. You want the time selection, which you set your in and out points. Okay, 48, all the 16-bit, all that looks good. It's a WAV file. Okay, you've saved it. I'll see you in RadioDJ. Back to the familiar, friendly world of RadioDJ. Let's bring these babies in. But before we do, we best be creating a category to go along with these new whisper liners. Adding the whisper subcategory to the jingle category. Are you following along? Hope you're taking copious notes. So let's bring in this folder of our whisper liners that we created. So we're bringing them in, we're slamming them in jingles, whisper. Oh yeah, I'm going to do that every time that word comes up. Doesn't matter what you choose for genre. Track type, not a jingle. I want to make this other. And we could use ID3 Q data. Bring it in, baby. It's been brought. Let's inspect what we expect. And they were imported to all the proper categories. You want to make sure overlay file is checked and then give ID3 read a click. To me, the secret sauce for a whisper liner is how you incorporate it into your on-air sound. To me, the best whisper voiceovers are heard over a song intro. You remember when we were in Audition and I said, hey, back that in point up a second. Well, this gives you some heads to play with. So when you put this whisper liner into a rotation, what's going to happen if you choose to do it the way I'm suggesting is it is going to start the song based on where you place this next start cue point within the whisper voiceovers. And you'll hear about a second or so of the song intro before the voiceover kicks in. To me, that provides a real integrated sound. But I want you to hear the difference between a couple options, and you could be the judge what sounds best on your station. And to cut the copyright lawyers off at the pass, let's blow all these hits out of the water and replace them with some super jazzy music beds. So here are our whisper liners that we brought in. And right now, the cue point is set at about a second. So that means the intro of the song here will play for about a second before running your voiceover. Let's take this for a spin.
XXX 80s. Commercial free, extreme 80s fun. 24/7.
So that's what 1 second of intro time sounds like. Just for the heck of it, let's check out another one.
XXX 80s. Commercial free, extreme 80s fun. 24/7.
So let's stay consistent, and I'm going to move this next start cue point right about to a half second. So you'll hear the difference here. So this is a half second of intro pre-roll.
XXX 80s. Commercial free, extreme 80s fun. 24/7.
So now if you want to sample a whisper that starts right at the beginning of your music intro, well, it'll sound a little something like this.
XXX 80s. Totally rad. Totally commercial free. 24/7.
Poisonally, I like the 1 second. I like for the song intro to establish. Listeners think, oh, it's another song. There's no interruption in the music. Aha! Then we get them with our whisper liner. Now, I grit my teeth and my blood pressure rises a little when I suggest you could even try running these over dead air. And that just goes against every fiber in my broadcasting body. But let's check it out. Doesn't hurt to give it a sample. Oh, right at the end. painful. Okay, let's listen to an example of something you'd never hear on Triple X 80s.
Triple X 80s. Totally awesome radio.
Okay. I'll admit it, it wasn't horrible. And talk about a pattern interrupt. It would cause people to kind of lean in and think, well, hey, what's happening? That song just ended. Oh, but I hear someone whispering. It must be important. I'm going to pay attention. This is so subjective. Figure out what works for your station, your brand, your music mix. I mean, I love the power of contrast. Let's say you're using one of these whisper liners to intro a rock song where the contrast is great. You have this really subdued, soft production element into this big, loud, rockin' intro. That could be cool. And you know what? Lawyers be damned. Let's load some hot rockin' 80s music up, baby. Okay, this has a pretty good rockin' intro.
Triple X 80s. Totally awesome radio.
What do you think of that? And I wonder how one of these would sound over a mid-tempo song. Oh, I think we're going to find out.
Triple X 80s. Commercial-free, extreme 80s fun. 24/7.
I think that sounded pretty good. But if you haven't asked the following question, it should be top of your list. How can you guarantee when you run one of these whisper liners over the intro of the song, it's not going to be a train wreck and you're going to trample all over the lyrics? Let's say you have a cold intro or only a 2-second intro when some of these whisper sweepers are 5 seconds. Aha! I've got you covered. Well, I did a video that addresses this, and it shows you how to program some of these options in the Others tab in your track edit window to do different things. So for me, start type hard, that is designated to any song with an intro of a minimum of 7 seconds. Look! Up to the right! There's a link to check out that video and get the scoop on how you can protect yourself from audio wreckage. And I do have a SQL query that you run in your database to do a mass rewrite based on song intro time qualification. So it'll save you a ton of time. So in a rotation, how do you deploy these things and make sure that your song has a necessary intro? Well, for example, jingles in my quick sweeper subcategory, I programmed some of those, next start cues to do just what you heard. They first trigger the song, and then they fire off the actual sweeper. In the rotation, let's say we were trying to add a whisper. Well, I'd select whisper, lock that in, but I'd make sure the very next song that the whisper is triggering and playing over had an intro of at least 7 seconds. And how do I do that? Well, right here, the start type, which I have programmed, hard to mean you're free and clear up to 7 seconds. I mean, the song could have a 22-second intro, but it still gets a hard start type. So we're safe. I am totally digging these, and I think they're going to be a whisperific new element in my arsenal. What an incredible video! Not only did you get a complete tutorial on how to make one of your own AI voiceover whisper sweepers, but you got one of my patented radio rants. Ha! I have to say, this is a sterling YouTube moment indeed. Hopefully you could give this a spin. I'd love to hear how you're going to use it. Feel free to post your station's info. I would love to take a listen to your stream. Oh boy, what a strong stream you have. Hey there, I am Jeff, the radio DJ dude, purveyor of nonsense and radio ramblings. That's what we do here. And if you got any value out of this video, I strongly urge you to click the like and subscribe button. It'll cause the bots to do black flips. It'll cause the bots to do backflips, I'm sure. Woohoo! Only took 3 takes to get that out. And thank you so much for spending some time with me. I know you've got a lot of choices when it comes to mediocre YouTube videos. And for you to choose this one, right here, baby, right here. Anyway, my medication's wearing off, so let's wrap this up. Most important, keep on rocking those mics around the world.